I would like to thank Professor Lin for giving us such an enlightening speech. Now I would like to invite Mr. Minsoo Kim, who is going to give us a practical insight from a British politician's point of view.
It's a bit short. Hi, my name is Minsoo Kim from Holman and St. Pancras Conservative Association. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you for terrific and very academically lecture from Professor Lim. And thank you for President Vicky and every members and executive of LSE. Right, rather than just going into very academic or say depth of knowledge, I would like to approach this problem and issue as a pragmatic and practical point of view as an active politician. Trying to be at ease. Okay, London is the most, I knew it yesterday, London is the most ethnically diverse city in the world with 300 different spoken languages. How many of you support Labour Party, or, hope not to be very political, but, or you think the current administration is not doing so well, or doesn't satisfy you? Would you like to raise your hands up? Oh, where's the answer? Okay, right. UK, undeniably, is a multicultural country, and back in history, from the World War II, it has started, because they lost a lot of population, unfortunately, and they started loud migration from different countries. Europe or Asia, very minor, but mainly from other Eastern European or other Southern European countries. And back in the 1970s, this hit the pinnacle, which means before this conservative administration took the office, in 2009, there were 300,000 people, 300,000 white immigrants influx into settled down into this country. And we actually, Mr. David Cameron, an exchequer, not me, but reduced the number of immigrants from 300,000 annually to 60 to 70,000 in this country, in Britain. But I would say this is not restriction, but rather like political modification scheme. Okay, so I know that there's a lot of arguments. Some of you lost many good opportunities like PSW or T1G visas. That will definitely be a disadvantage for foreigners who want to migrate to this country. But I would like to discuss that further in the Q&A session. Okay. I could say the state multiculturalism in this country has not been very successful. I would say it has been failed. I know there's a lot of arguments, discourse. I'd like to talk about that later. The reason is, let me just suggest this. The future, in the long term, we're not looking for state multiculturalism, but integration, as Professor Lim said, and assimilation. So people have to be assimilated, and people have to be converged into the society. And people have to learn the language, people have to learn the culture, people have to adopt themselves. People means immigrants. They need to try utmost effort to settle down into society. That doesn't mean that the local indigenous people do nothing, but then both of them need to be cooperative and to build a community with harmony. Okay. Let me just go to these. What comes to your mind when you think about state multiculturalism? Anybody? Can help me? Nobody? All right. Free democracy. We just touched upon, Professor Lim touched upon liberal democracy. I'd like to distinguish between democracy and liberal democracy. Democracy is, in my point of view, is a form of government where which people can change or select or replace the leader who can represent their own thoughts and ideology throughout a fair election. But liberal democracy is just simply democracy plus liberty. It's as simple as it is. And say this is not the best, but this is the most efficient system. So what we found out throughout our history for thousands of years, for centuries, after the war, conflicts, and so many debates, we found out this system. And this system works the most efficient to reduce and mitigate the conflict, the ideological or political, religious conflict within our community and society. And secondly, we have rights, because we said liberal democracy means liberty plus democracy. So we're liberal. We have liberty. We have rights to appeal to the government, to the society. So everybody might say, turn around and say, oh, I have this right, I have this right, I have this right. And I'm going to say the country or the government or the administration should keep my right. I can do whatever things I think in this country because this is a liberal democracy. But I strongly disagree with this because rights and duties have to be followed, have to be earned all together at the same time simultaneously. Okay? And very last core thing about liberal democracy concept is that accepting the inequality. I'm not saying people are not equal, but I'm saying I'm trying to convince you, and I'm trying to insist that accepting the different background or different educational background, different situation they're confronting, or different situation they're facing, accepting those factors are one of the most important key principles of the liberal democracy. Okay, let's move on. I'm about to finish. Don't worry. After the global financial crisis back in 4 or 5 years ago, all right, the British government, after the Conservative seized the power, we released £60 billion every year for a quantitative easing, QE, we call it QE. I'm sure a lot of economists here. I'm not an economist or anything, so don't ask me about so deep questions about it. But as far as I understand, they set out the interest rate in a negative, so that it got people, rather than just buying a government bond or treasury bond in the States, but to invest to the public and private sectors, and then to revive the economy. People could secure their mortgage, and people could buy the houses, and then people could consume. So consumption rate increased, and more jobs have been created. So it pragmatically, it worked. And then, we have 5.9% of unemployment rate in this country. This is lower than many other European sovereign states. United States is doing very well at the moment. Their unemployment rate is even higher than that of us. And we earned 2.4% of economic growth rate, GDP growth rate. I know figures don't show everything. I can't say that. I can't clearly say that. Figures don't show and explain everything. But what I would like to say is that I'm talking about the fact that we, in cohorts, at least we're getting better, and we're ameliorating the situation and improving the situation. Last but not least, I'd like to talk about, say, welfare, which is very related to multiculturalism. In this country, top 10% of people, population, support the rest of 85% of the population, which I think a very strange and a deformative structure. But this is a very common structure nowadays in democratic society and countries. But the reason is, we have several factors that decide conflicts of the state that creates the conflicts of the state multiculturalism. Cultural, racial, ethnical, religion, ideology. But I'd like to conclude my talk with this. As I said before, we have to have effort And we have to put more effort, even more effort. And then the government is trying to do this. And the government is trying to, not trying to exacerbate the situation, but trying to improve the situation. But the immigrants need to learn the language, and they need to adapt themselves to the society where they belong. Instead of just saying that, oh, I came from this country, and this worked in this country, but not in this country. It's liberal democracy. Why can't I, why can't I just ask for my own rights? I think this is preposterous. Maybe a lot of people might say, democracy should embrace and accept everything. But I think, at least in terms of practical and pragmatic politicians' point of view, it's your choice and your decision to vote for who the party or whoever that is who can represent your ideology and thoughts, and it's your power that you can practice. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kim, I would like to now open to the floor for questions. If you have questions, you just raise up your hand. I'll bring this mic over so that you can speak. Does anybody have questions?
First of all, thank you, Professor Lim and Mr. Kim.
Sorry, I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but would you just please, everyone, state your name so that I can remember your name, okay. And then would you just say who you're going to ask to, or either Professor Lim or me.
Okay.
This can be directed both to Dr. Lim and Mr. Kim. When you said that South Korea and Japan were starting to accept the views of multiculturalism, I assume that you meant the governments. Well, I guess, so I came to this question to Mr. Kim.
Yep.
How, as a politician, do you think would be the best way to, because there is a difference between the way it's accepted from the government and the general public, it's much lower. What sort of recommendations, how would you reconcile this problem?
All right, thanks for the question. I think this is the main principle for me. No matter where that is, whether it's Korea or Japan or England or US, I think the real actual politics and setting up the political principles and schemes is different from the reality. Could be. I agree with that. But at least what I believe is the current administration is not just shaping the political scheme from they're not just reinventing the wheel, but they're actually trying to grasp the situation and know the situation, comprehend the situation, and they're trying to give you a solution. But then this is a bit controversial because sometimes government just say, oh, just trust us, we're going to do these kind of policies. And then at the end of the day, they don't do it. I know it. But then this is not just ad hoc based, but this is planned. And this is rather, I would say, it reflects the reality when they set up the political scheme. So I will like to ask you, not ask you back, but I'd like to let you know that no matter Labor or what political party that is, Labor or Conservative or Liberal Democracy, them or any other party, they pursue to provide the best policy for the public. But the difference is ideology. This is what I can say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Minsoo, and this is a question for both Professor Lim and Mr. Kim. And in case of South Korea, it seems like there's diverging view between the government and the people regarding this question of multiculturalism. especially people tend to think that multiculturalism will only lead to bipolarization and racial tension between people, where the government is actively engaging on this issue as more a pro-migration view. Do you, and so many people argues that about the case of Sweden and 2011 London riot as the failure of multiculturalism, and some people argue that multiculturalism is the failure and South Korea should pursue the multi-ethnicity, not the multiculturalism. And do you think this is just a temporary phenomenon as the South Korea progressed to multiculturalism society, or and what causes this discussion? Both Professor Lim and Mr. Kim.
Right. Mind if I answer? Sure. Thanks. I think we need to distinguish between foreigners and immigrants, because you just touched upon the riots that happened in 2011, and I'm very aware of that because I was here and then I was in the office. But the reason is, as Professor Lim said, I mean, misunderstanding, and that causes conflict. That's true. But I mean, there's something behind. I don't want to like reiterate it, but something behind that we couldn't see. That's the intangible, invisible conflict, which came from, in Europe, in this particular circumstances, came from both religious and political conflicts. So meaning that people have different ideology and religion, and especially in this country, immigrants, a lot of immigrants actually gave birth to kids, and then they already have grown up. They're adults, and they're actually they're a proud member of your society. But then in their family, they have this perception. They've been taught to practice certain manners of their religion, a certain, say, way of living. But then once they come out to the society and try to, assimilate with the local people, they face the wall. I mean, because the reality is different from what they have been taught. So I think, to conclude it, I think foreigners are the ones who came here for the purpose, and they ought to leave, or they could migrate to this society. But the immigrants' problem, it's very controversial, and it's not a cut and dry type of issue. But I would say we have to think about the unseen and invisible problem behind the thing, just as if I said. Thank you. Like I'm being interviewed. All right, that's a bit of a personal thing, but I could give you certain details. I'm joking. Basically, I started my career over here in the UK. Started from UCLA, University College London Conservative Society. I joined the society, and then and step up, and I played a big game, and I wound up here. But I mean, there's a long story behind that, and Vicky knows more about it. I'm going to explain this after, because I don't think it's very related to the multiculturalism. So, I mean, I'm sorry for that, but I'll tell you later after this discourse. Thank you.
Mr. Kim, what are the recent successful policies that have been implemented to help with the immigration policies and to sustain the UK's multicultural state?
As I said that state multiculturalism has not been very successful, and we changed it to integration and the concept of integration. There's no policy called integration policy, but I'm just telling you, I'm not scraping off the surface, but I'm telling you the basic concept is integration. First of all, clear answer. We spend a lot of budget we cut off a lot of budget from where is not necessarily needed, but we invested a lot of budget to provide equal opportunities in terms of education to migrants, immigrants, and foreigners as well. And secondly, if you look at the discrimination Act 96, this Act of Parliament has changed a lot after 2010 when the Tories seized the power. We tried our best to provide, as I said, number one, equal opportunity. Number two, discriminate and not being discriminated, but in a very detailed way. Nowadays, regardless where you're from, you are and you can be given equal opportunity. You're studying here, and you're going to be you're a prospective professional. So this itself, this phenomenon itself, shows that we actually tried. I mean, it has been like that for before the labor. Before, I mean, we did, but then still, I think it has been improved and ameliorated, so that more people could get education, equal education standard, and so that they can jump into industry and society, so that they can contribute back to the society. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
I think that's going to be the last question because we're running out of time.
Sorry, this is my second time. I have a question for Mr. Kim. You mentioned, you stated I think what was a very provocative statement, that state multiculturalism in the UK was dead and it was failed. And one question I would ask is, what evidence can you give us of this failure of state multiculturalism? And another thing you mentioned that was, so you supported a policy of integration, which basically you argued that immigrants and foreigners need to be assimilated into British society by accepting British values. And I'm wondering how that translates into policy. For example, do you support implementing like more citizenship tests, or I'm not sure how that translates into policy, so if you could clarify that for me.
Thank you. Not necessarily providing a citizenship or a permanent residence. I mean, these things, these purposes are very, it's not practical, right? So I would like to say that, I said that British people have to meet the British standard, and people have to try best. I mean, people have to try a lot and put a lot of effort to be assimilated into society. Maybe. But then, what I wanted to say is that there's so many conflicts occurring. If you go out on the street in Croydon, I mean, I'm not saying a certain specific area, but there's still a demonstration and strikes are going on, and people are having conflict between their different ideology. But then we have tried to mitigate a conflict. By which way? Number one, we actually made so many more committees, before than 2009. So we invited people from different ethnic group and people from different religious party. We invited them to have a talk. Basically, this is just simple talk, but it just doesn't remain as a simple talk. But then we discuss and they discuss about the future solutions. So we, rather than just like suggesting the solutions and policies, we want them to solve their problem within their society, because they're the ones who know about their conflict the most. So this is one of the achievement we had over the past 5 years. And secondly, we, as I said earlier, we provided educational opportunities. Education and language are very interrelated. And this is very important, and I'm sure Professor Lim will agree with this. Because language is a form of communication. So you need to communicate with one another with language, but without knowing or without just being proficient English in this country, in this circumstances. You can, I mean, there's going to be discrepancy, and there's going to be doubts, and there's going to be stereotype and matador. So we're trying to mitigate this solution by teaching them English to very good level, good English, speaking good English, and then come to the top, and then solve the problem by the citizens themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim and Professor I would like to close this event now. I'm so sorry that it had to run late. I hope that we